All right. Well, it looks like we're live, Alex and Paul. So, welcome everyone to another session of Who's Got Clout on Clout Forum. So, today is a pretty awesome session for many reasons. Not only do we have the amazing Paul Burke with us, but it's the first Who's Got Clout episode after the big news moving from Clout to DeSo. So there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of action, people's imaginations are getting fired up, and you can really feel the creativity at play. So super stoked to have Paul on so we can actually really just jump into your brain, right? And really get to understand what's going on. So before we do hand it over, Paul, I just want to read out a little bit here because you have a bit of history on Bitcloud. You are a true OG that's been here really helping make things happen. And so for those that don't know, Paul Burke is a self-taught developer who spent most of the past decade building Android apps. Having written a few Ethereum smart contracts since 2017, he is no stranger to blockchain and DApps. He's passionate about open source technology and an active contributor to the Bitcloud project. So those of you that have been part of Bitcloud from the beginning will know this incredible man's work from bitclout.plus, which was an absolute lifeline for many of us in the early days. It made it much easier to use this platform. So Paul, starting with the beginning, welcome. How you doing?
Thank you so much. I'm great. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. And so everyone who's watching live, we are streaming live on YouTube, on Twitch, and also share that out on Bitcloud as well. Please help Reclout, get it moving, and come join us in the Zoom room. We've got Mubs and Will Laurent here joining in the conversation, and plenty of room in the Zoom where you can co-create in the chat. And we'll also try and keep an eye on the chats in YouTube, etc. If you have any comments or questions, you want to help co-create the conversation. So with that all being said, Paul, so my first exposure to you was right in the beginning. I didn't realize it was you. Was, that Chrome extension that you built into Bitcloud, which really did begin to open up the posts, etc. But going further back before that, the age-old question, how did you actually get into Bitcloud? Like, what was your beginning?
So I was watching a video on YouTube. It's called Crypto Banter. And basically it's about trading loosely, but it also is just generally about crypto news. And on Fridays, they have a bunch of, crypto people come on and just kind of talk about what's going on. And Friday, March 19th, they all came on and they were all just buzzing and talking about Bitcloud. And everyone was like, oh my God, are you on it? Did you see this? I mean, they were all just like fanboying. And I've been around tech for a while, and having a popular or common name like Paul Burke, it's pretty hard for me to get my name on anything. So I've for a long time I've just signed up for anything that sounds like maybe it has a chance, just to kind of grab my my username. So that was really what brought me there initially. Like, okay, I'm just going to grab this username just to be safe. But interestingly, I had worked on a project a few years ago that was about creating NFTs that were usernames on Ethereum that you could buy and sell. So I've been thinking about social on blockchain for a few years, and as soon as I realized what was happening, I was like, okay, this is what a lot of people have been thinking about for a long time. I think the fact that people were talking about that there was an Elon Musk coin, and that you had to have this password to get in there. So I had to, I installed Telegram for the first time to try to find this password. So yeah, it was just, got caught up in the excitement with these guys. And just once I joined, I realized what kind of opportunities there were in there. But going in, it was just really need to claim my space as quick as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear that. So what was your feelings when you first kind of, in the first couple of weeks, were you coming in skeptical? Were you coming in with that open mind thinking, because I mean, obviously with a lot of opportunity in blockchain, you will have experienced so much of the darker side as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something that, a lot of people early on were concerned about, just because there was not a whole lot of information. There was a Twitter account, but turns out that Twitter account wasn't even official. There were a few Discords that popped up. For a long time, I was in some Bitcloud Discord that wasn't the one, the proper one that we're all in now. So it was kind of hard to know what was happening, but the buzz was, you couldn't be on Twitter or be in the cryptoverse without hearing about this buzz. So in the very beginning, my interests were really around trading. Like I've been trading crypto for a few years, and I've seen a lot of projects come and go. So I didn't really necessarily think there was anything, going to be too viral about it. But what I saw was an opportunity to trade on the bonding curve. And to me, that was like, okay, this is wild. So I could just watch Twitter and look for people posting their link, trying to get verified, because no one knew how to get verified. So everyone was just, saying, I'm claiming my BitCloud. So I would just, click on the link and try to buy coins early on the bonding curve and then sell them. And, it actually took me a little while. And at some point I sold the coin of someone and kind of saw the way that it affected them personally, and saw them post like, what just happened? My coin just, dropped. And I was like, oh man, there are people on the other sides of these coins. And I started thinking about it a little bit differently. So, the early days, I think we're all just kind of figuring out the tokenomics. We were trying to figure out who's behind this. Is it really going to be open source? How decentralized is it? There's no mining. There were all these questions, but part of that was, the allure, aside from just the excitement from being able to trade on the bonding curve, which I think is a really major part of the success of BitCloud. That all this mystery that was around it. We don't know who the founder is. We don't know who this company is. And then there's news trickling out that they have the Winklevoss twins behind them and Coinbase behind them and all this. And so, as soon as I start to hear some of that stuff, that's when I was like, all right, I think I'm going to take a little bit of a flyer on this and see what I could do. I never really had much of a presence on Twitter. I wasn't really a big social media user prior to this. I don't really have a Facebook, not one that I've used in decades anyway. So, I saw an opportunity to be part of something building from the beginning, and just jumped in.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, and so that's really interesting, because we're seeing a lot of that, aren't we, on BitCloud? Like people that haven't had a traditional kind of social media background suddenly having a following and having influence and more clout, right? Yeah. So it's really interesting you come from that kind of background.
Yeah.
So what's
I also think sorry, go ahead. No, please. Similarly, I think it's interesting that we've attracted a lot of developers who are not blockchain developers. So, we've attracted people that are not necessarily big into social media. We attracted people that are not necessarily big into crypto. And we attracted developers that are not necessarily big into blockchain. And, all of that just creates all this excitement where people are just trying to figure things out. We're all in clubhouses all day. Just trying to figure out what's going on, and it was just a lot of excitement. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I think that's one of the things that was most appealing to me, as a explorer of all things chaotic and crazy at the edge, right? Is just seeing exactly this, seeing this cross-pollination of all these different worlds. And I think like you're expressing so beautifully, it was like seeing that potential for the evolution of like what happens when you take these worlds that were separated and throw them in together in this wild west. Mm-hmm. And so it really was like a gold rush, wasn't it? In those first weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what point was it where you actually started developing? So BitCloud.plus, that came fairly early on, didn't it? How far into your BitCloud journey was that?
Yeah, I think the first release was March 29th or March 30th, something like that. So yeah, I mean, I don't remember exactly what, I'd never written an extension before. We didn't know when it was going to be open source, and I wanted to be part of the project. And, the only way I could see to do that was by creating an extension. So initially, really all that I wanted was a sell button on profiles, because it was really annoying to have to press buy. And if you're trying to sell on the curve and get out before other people, I wanted a fast way out and not have to go through the wallet or not have to click around. So I was like, all right, how can I add this sell button? And yeah, the extension was born from that. And then, a lot of it in the beginning was just adding kind of obvious things that I felt were kind of a utilitarian approach to a social network. So things that had precedent that you'd seen on other social networks, taking a lot of inspiration from Twitter, obviously. So just kind of like filling some of the gaps that I thought were there that I thought would improve my experience and everyone else's experience. But yeah, in the beginning, it was just, I wanted to see these things, and it wasn't open source, so I didn't have an official way to contribute to it. So bitclout.plus was my really only way to do that.
It was incredible to watch. And again, it was one of the things that really inspired me to stick around, is seeing these early early adopters like yourself, Paul, that just jumped in and just took initiative. It's like, didn't wait for permission, didn't wait to be told, is this how I'm supposed to do it? But just went, fuck it, let's go. Let's see what we can create together. And that has inspired me from the beginning. And that's where I actually deleted my Facebook account to go all in over here, because I thought, you know what, even if this crashes and burns, to get to be part of something with people that are so passionate and committed like yourself, just to jump off that cliff, was exhilarating, and still is. So thank you for the work that you did. I'm sure I can speak on behalf of the community for that, because you helped a lot stick around in that sense.
Thanks for saying.
So in that part of the process, so the first, like, it's almost like we've had stage one of BitClout kind of play out. Just doing a brief overview, because I know we've got so much awesome information about what's coming, what's happening, and the rest we want to spend some time talking about. But just in your reflections over the first stage of BitClout, since the beginning in March to now, before we switched over to DSO, what would you say are some of your highlights, your favorite moments, memorable moments?
Yeah, I mean, there've been a lot. I was introduced to a lot of different technology. I'd been on Discord a little bit, but never really felt part of a community on there. I installed Clubhouse probably a day or two before I joined BitClout, and it just kind of worked out that I didn't really have much to look for on Clubhouse, and everyone was talking about BitClout. So I think some of the highlights for me is just being part of like the beginning of all these communities that were springing up. It wasn't necessarily a singular moment, but I had experience once before with getting in early on something like this that was a complete failure, Google Plus. And now you see where BitCloud Plus came from. So yeah, Google Plus was actually pretty incredible for the people that used it. It was something that they shoved down everyone's mouth, which was terrible. And requiring YouTube users to use it, just they made every wrong decision. But the interesting thing about it was their concept of circles, and the idea that you could post something that was intended for a subgroup of your followers. So people could follow certain topics that they were interested in that you would post about. So as someone who is an Android developer, this was really interesting to me, because on Twitter, I always used it kind of as a professional tool, and it's felt strange to befriend people that I knew in real life when I'm just talking about Android stuff and stuff that they don't really care about. There's nothing for them to connect on. So the concept of circles really resonated with me, and the Android community on Google Plus was amazing. There are a few pockets of communities that really grew on there. Unfortunately, that project failed, spectacularly. But being part of the community that grew there, growing my personal career as an independent developer, using my exposure that Google Plus afforded me, put me into such an incredible place, and really had a profound impact on the trajectory of my career. So having that kind of background coming into what I saw happening with BitCloud, also being into blockchain, being into Ethereum, kind of waiting for like the real social blockchain app to come around. It was just like all the stars aligned for me, pretty much.
Yeah, fantastic. And so in saying that, like, what's your feelings right now as we stand today in regards to BitClout, not BitClout, sorry, DSO, the blockchain, the decentralized social blockchain? Where are you feeling? Like, is this it? Is it the Ethereum to DeFi? Does it have that feeling, or where are we at with that?
I don't know. I think that, that's a really tough question to answer at this stage.
Mm.
I think that, there are probably people on both sides of any project that would say, oh, this project's not really decentralized enough. There were people that called Ethereum a scam in the beginning, like a lot of people, like a lot of Bitcoin maxis were saying Ethereum was a scam. And, having kind of known that weathered me a bit for when people were talking about Bitcloud being a scam. But I do have some real concerns with some of the choices that have been made by the core team. Some of the, some of the structure that is in place currently. And I'll be frank that the thing that keeps me is that whether or not DSO or BitCloud succeeds, I think we have lit a fire here, that we have something, not only in the vision, but in the community. And whether or not this one works, I think worst case scenario, in the ashes from it will rise something great. And it's entirely possible that it will be something built on DSO, and it will be DSO itself that is that thing. And I'm making that bet right now. It's the best bet. It's the best bet that I've seen for social on blockchain, without a doubt. So, the community is what makes me so bullish on this platform. The things that I am critical about is what makes me hesitant to say that this is the one.
Yeah, I hear you. So let's jump into a little bit about that, because that's what one of the things that is refreshing about you, Paul, is that, you may have seen me on the platform. I'm an ever optimist. It's like I see positivity and I like to take whatever life brings me. And that's in real life as well. No matter how challenging, there's always a way to weave it into something positive and gain from it, invest that into something worthwhile. But that being said, I'm very aware that there needs to be a balance in that. And that's something that I see that you bring a very healthy respect, a very healthy kind of skepticism and good skepticism. See, I think the word skeptic has been abused so many ways, right? Like a pessimist is not a skeptic. A skeptic is a person with an open mind going in and saying, well, let's see. And that's what I see in you, Paul, is that somebody who recognizes something, a possibility, something that is really coming along, and is being genuine. And I love that in your posts, in your conversation, and in your fire. So beginning with that, and by the way, Salil Sethi is in there saying Paul is a legend, and BitClout Ryan Alf, he's the man. So you got your fan club here today. But what are some of your biggest skepticisms, like over the time? Where are your biggest questions that you're looking for answers that would help reassure the process?
Yeah, I think some of those things have been answered. To be fair to the process, in the beginning, it wasn't open source, and we're fully open source. In the beginning, there was a lot of mystery around who the core team was. We now know who the founder is. In the beginning, we didn't even really know how the initial Clout was bought. We knew that there were investors, but we didn't really know that everybody bought Clout on the bonding curve. It wasn't until I saw an interview with Arts that I actually learned that. And they just recently released a spreadsheet with all those buys. So, they are incrementally kind of taking steps to address these issues that I think a lot of people have had for a long time. One of the issues that, I think is maybe I'm in a minority with is just the amount of max supply for BitCloud or for DSO. So, when I joined the project, there was a white paper, and it said that BitCloud at the time was minted on the bonding curve, and because of just natural price, it would probably cap out somewhere between 10 and 19 million coins. And at the time, I thought that was pretty aggressive, because if you think about scarcity and you think about the precedent that Bitcoin has set, there will be 21 million Bitcoin at max supply, which it's going to take a while to get there. So are we saying that BitCloud is more valuable and more scarce than Bitcoin? So from the beginning, I was like, okay, well, that's a little strange. To kind of manufacture scarcity in that way doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And it sets off alarm bells. Okay, why are they trying to limit supply so much? And then you find out that in the Genesis block, there were like 8 million BitCloud assigned to addresses. And it wasn't, a small pre-mine like the 2 million that they talked about. It was 8 million. And in the beginning, it looked like that was just like a pre-mine, right? Because we didn't know what that was. But we come to find out that there was actually a private initial chain where all these initial clout buys happened. And the genesis of the chain we're on now basically imported those balances. So that's why if you look at the first block, it assigns all these balances to all these public keys. And in the beginning, we were like, what is this? And that's one of the big reasons that the crypto community was saying, this is a scam. Like, you guys are like, listen, half of the supply that they're saying will be out there is already in the hands of the people that were in it before it was public. Like, hello, this is obvious, right? We've seen this before. And then in the middle of the night, Diamond Hands decides to completely destroy the efficacy of mining. He cut the rewards to 1/10 of what they were and cap supply at 10.8 million. So almost half of what we thought it might get to. And we already knew that they were controlling half of the supply. So now we're going into a situation where the private early investors control 60 to 80% of the supply, right? So this is alarming, right? Like, they can sell this project into the ground at any given moment, and we're just trusting that they won't. And for me personally, before that consensus change, that capped supply, the deflation bomb that everybody was so excited about, because they are master marketers. You have to give them that. Before that, I was thinking, okay, listen, my first clout improvement proposal is going to be, let's increase mining rewards to be 20, 50 clout per block. That's what it was with Bitcoin. I think in the beginning, you even got like 100 Bitcoin per block that you've mined. I mean, just think about that, right? And the reason that you do that is because you have to incentivize people to come on. The reason you have to incentivize people to come on is because you have to secure the network with hash power, right? And, we don't have to go too deep into specifics, but there are kind of ways to cheat that. And one of those ways is to have these things called trusted block producers. And that's where we are right now. And that's one of my main concerns with moving towards decentralization. And, I don't necessarily think that it's a good idea to completely decentralize everything all at once right in the beginning, back in April. I don't necessarily know that if BitCloud had launched on a DAO, if it would have gotten to where it is. A group of people probably wouldn't have agreed that the growth hack of preloading 15,000 Twitter accounts and allowing people to buy their coin before they come, it probably wouldn't have passed. Like, you have to take a risk like that. And that's what actually brought people here. So in some ways, some things need to be centralized. And in the case of security, if you're going to allow miners to come onto your network and you don't have enough hash power to ensure that they can't take over 51%, you're putting the entire network at risk, because they can literally write the blocks that they want and take the balances. And that's what a 51% attack is. You control the blockchain, you can write whatever you want. So part of the reason that we have something like trusted block producers is to prevent that from happening. So only the nodes that are predefined by the super admins, by the core teams, are capable of actually creating blocks. The rest of us can just validate transactions that are in the blocks. And you can argue that there's still some value to that, but the core proposition of a blockchain, insofar as decentralization, is the lack of a trusted party. What blockchain is about is decentralized trust. That's what it is. Like, don't trust, verify. So, my main concern is that we haven't heard what the plan is to get rid of trusted block producers. We don't know what the roadmap is. We know that we're going to move to proof of stake, but people stake their coins for more coins, and if block rewards are so low and supply is capped, where are these rewards coming from? And people say fees, right? But the fees are so low on Bitcloud. I mean, we need to get to serious scale before these fees are going to mean anything. So how long are we talking about? Are we talking about months? Are we talking about years that we allow trusted block producers? I don't know. I mean, so, that's one of my big concerns.
Yeah, and I think it's an important question. It's a very wise man once told me, it's it's not about getting the right answers. It's about finding the right questions. And so I think with the town hall that's coming up, I saw that you have put your comments under Nadir's. I'm going to call him Diamond Hands still. That's his pet name. That can be a cute little name for him. But I've seen that you've already put those questions there, and looking forward to hopefully getting some look into that, right? Because I mean, it's one of those things with when you begin something new like this, with so much fire behind it and so much noise around it, you know, it's often the person in the beginning has a picture, but it's often hard to get that picture out to people because it'll be challenged left, right, without even being listened to properly. So what I'm really looking forward to is getting questions like you're bringing up right here. And now that he's public and open, actually getting to hear it from the horse's mouth as such. So it's going to be exciting.
Agree. We'll see if he actually addresses any of the tough questions. We'll see.
That's right. We're about to discover. We're about to see a lot from here. And I got to say that, to give him credit, the kindness and, like you say, the master marketing, the face that he puts forward is very effective. Mm-hmm. You know, for the general community. So for onboarding, etc., that's going to be fantastic. And if he can also get clean answers to very challenging questions like yours, then that's a full house for me. But that's what we're yet to see, right?
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
Awesome. So I just want to do a shout out to Mubs, who's also mentioned a little bit about, you know, not sure it needs to be fully decentralized to succeed either. So there's also that contemplation and question and conversation, you know, what is actually necessary to achieve the goal? Because it's very easy to get stuck in these storylines, right? These dogmas of it needs to be decentralized or it needs to be this. And a lot of people I've heard screaming that don't actually even understand why, you know, and I think you've touched on one of the most important things that we need in this world more than anything is decentralized trust, you know, to solve the trust problem, you know, on governments, economics, everything.
Yeah, to me, that was the kind of aha moment when I realized that what blockchain really gives you is the ability to not have to trust a third party, you know. And, you know, I think in a big way, you know, we can talk about what's necessary for success, but I think we have to respect what's necessary for bringing the blockchain community on board, right? Like we you know, the elephant in the room is that there really aren't a whole lot of blockchain professionals involved with DeSo. We don't have a whole lot of blockchain developers. We don't have a lot of, you know, kind of influential blockchain people on the platform. And I believe that, you know, it's because some of these things need to be addressed. And, you know, it may not necessarily mean that addressing these things will bring more users on the platform immediately, but I do think that there are roadblocks from certain people considering changing their mind, you know, and it's hard once people make their mind up about something. It's not always that easy to change it, and you know, you kind of have to go above and beyond. So yeah, just open sourcing, yeah, not really enough, because you know, it's really not still decentralized. Just decentralizing, well, yeah, not really enough because they control all the supply. So you know, you know, the idea of the blockchain, the idea of Bitcoin, the reason why these things are so attractive is because they are for maximalists. They resolve all of those issues. They answer all of those problems. They get rid of all of the haziness, all of the BS, all of the trust that you just have to have, and allows you to actually see through all of it. So, you know, I do believe that without getting to that point, we're never going to see adoption from the core blockchain community.
I'm appreciating this, Paul. I appreciate your calmness and your solidness of being able to take on such controversial, open things and bringing it. So really, really appreciate that. And just want to do a shout out to Nick from Pulse, who's here, and said, in regards to questions, definitely head to our server and drop your toughest questions in the channel I created for that purpose. So that's on Discord, discord.gg/DSO. If anyone wants to go throw some questions in there and make sure we get as many people amplifying the important ones. And I think, Paul, you've touched on some really powerful ones. So I'm all behind anything I can help. Reach out to us and we'll help make sure we can amplify those questions. Also, while we're here, big shout out to Nishan Thomas, my favorite drummer on the platform. Sean Drums, who's out there. He's watching us live on YouTube. So good to see us there. Now, let's now go into what are you excited about? What are you working on? What do you want to talk about, Paul? That's like it's like a kid in a candy store here with you. It's what's the most exciting thing you're working on right now?
Um, well, last few days I have been working diligently on adding transfer and burn support for NFTs to BitClout.plus. So recently, the core team added um, protocol level support for burning and transferring of NFTs, but they did not add or change the front end client in any way to actually reflect these new capabilities. It's not entirely clear if that was because they're focused on a whole lot of things. There's a lot happening right now, obviously. Maybe they're waiting for the redesign and it's already addressed in the redesign. It doesn't make sense to kind of write code that'll be overwritten. We're not sure. Or maybe they wanted to give an opportunity for other nodes to kind of shine and to have a feature that bitclout.com doesn't have. But for any purpose, I'm adding the features, the functionality to the extension, the Clout Plus. So I've just been working on that, testing it out in between, bidding on some Clout Punk Gs, and that's pretty much it.
That's so, and it's working.
Oh yeah, it's working. So I transferred, I think, 11 Clout Punks today. So I did an NFT a few days ago, and the winners of the NFT received the next 10 Clout Punk Gs that I won at bid. So they paid upfront to win my bid, to win my auctions. And I delivered those today, and I also sent a Clout Punk as a gift to Tijan. So transfers are working. And the way that transfers work are pretty interesting. So basically, as soon as you transfer an NFT, it now belongs by the other to the other person, to that other public key. Once you transfer it, you can't cancel that transfer. You can't undo it. You no longer own it. For all intents and purposes, it is owned by the key that you transferred it to. Now, it has a flag on it that says pending. So that's how we know that it's an NFT that was transferred to you and not one that you necessarily bought. So
okay.
There's a second step to the process where you can accept an NFT. So basically what I'm building is not only the way to actually transfer the NFT itself, but a little area that'll be kind of your NFT inbox for when people transfer your NFTs, and you'll accept or reject it. And reject it is interesting too, because really the only way to reject it, you can send it back to the person that sent it to you if you want to. But if someone's sending you something you don't want, they might just send it back and forth and you're playing volley. So the other option is to burn. And that's why they added both of them at the same time. It just makes sense when, they kind of have to go together. So declining an NFT transfer is burning it. And what burning does is essentially it just deletes the serial number from the blockchain. So as you know, when you mint a post, when you create an NFT by minting it, you can create a single serial number or you can create a collection. In the case of a single serial number that is burned, the NFT still is an NFT, it still looks like an NFT. You still have to go to /NFT/the ID to get to it, but it just has no owners. It'll show up in the feed of the person that originally created it. So if you go in the timeline, you'll see it there. It'll look like an NFT, but it'll have no owner, cannot be resold, cannot be reminted. So it's kind of just like a ghost NFT. So that's the way that works. If you have an NFT that has multiple serial numbers, it'll continue to be a regular NFT just the same. And if all of the serials are burned, it'll show no owners and just will look like the same type of ghost NFT. So it doesn't go back to being a post. You cannot hide it. So it still very much is an NFT, but the serial numbers are gone and there are no owners.
This is pretty exciting, right? Like it's something that I see life as a game, right? A computer game, and in computer games, the difference between a good game and a shit game is good rules, right? What are the rules of the game? What are the parameters of the game? And like what you're introducing here is some pretty fascinating dynamics, because all of a sudden, you can buy someone you despise You can buy their NFT if you can pay enough, and if they will sell it to you, and then burn it, right? You can do all kinds of crazy new actions are going to come from this.
Yeah, a lot of people have been asking me, what would you want to burn an NFT for? And I mean, you can just look at the precedent that's been set. There's a lot of really cool things that people do with it. So one of the big things is for redemption of goods. So you can imagine an NFT that represents a ticket, and that ticket can only be used once. So you require burning the ticket to actually get the good. And there are examples. So Damien Hirst, for example, his project, he created a series of paintings, and you can buy the token, and by a certain date, you have to choose whether to burn the token or to keep it. If you burn it, you receive the actual physical painting. And if you don't burn it, the physical painting is destroyed. So just having this concept of burning offers so many new opportunities to developers and creators alike to do really interesting things with those capabilities.
Even as you say that, I'm straight away seeing like potential for crazy, like, TV shows, like live shows of like keep or burn, and it's like, do we keep the NFT or do we keep the real thing? Which one's getting burnt? It's all kinds of crazy, wild rabbit hole. Man, this is getting exciting. All right, excellent. So is that available for people right now?
It's
if
not,
they get on bitclout.plus?
Not yet. If developers are watching, there's a branch up there. They could mess around with it if they want to. Burn is up. Transfers is almost done. I was testing it a bunch today. Just want to make sure everything is good. Should be up this weekend, maybe tomorrow, maybe not, but very soon, very, very soon.
Excellent. So anyone who's watching at the moment, we are going to be announcing at the end. Paul has a NFT giveaway. So speaking, I just thought we'd mention it right now. We're talking about NFTs. So keep watching to the end. If you're watching the replay, make sure you stick to the end. Don't fast forward. You got to watch it. And we're going to have a bit of fun at the end in giving this away. So it's definitely worth checking out. All right, Paul. So just being aware of the time, because I have to be careful not to hog all the time chatting to our guests. But I want to put a shout out to everyone watching live. If you've got any questions for Paul, any comments you'd like him to hear, any questions you'd like to ask from him, please do chuck them in the comments, either in YouTube, Twitch, or you can join us in the Zoom live and pop them in the chat there. And we'll have a chance to ask him a few questions there. And from that point, what is the main thing you would like to say to the BitClout community, in the sense of, it sounded almost like we're finishing the podcast, but we're not done yet. But like, what is the main message? Like, what is something you're super passionate about that you just wish that the community could see through your lens, in that sense, about BitClout and where we're heading, about DSO?
Yeah, I think it's maybe not anything groundbreaking, but just the way that I look at this whole thing is that, DSO is ours. This whole movement, this blockchain, the data, the community, everything that we built around it is ours. And there's no stopping that now, right? Like it's out there. There's precedent for hard forks. I mean, just look at the history of any major coin, any major blockchain like Bitcoin, like Ethereum. There are major hard forks where the community split in two, and sometimes in three. And that will probably happen over the course of DSO. And, hopefully it'll happen for the right reasons. And maybe it won't happen because, we'll just do the right thing. But point being is that whatever direction this goes in, this is ours. Like we're building it every day. We own it. And that is really what drives me and what draws me to blockchain, is that, and I think that's what drives Natter too, that, we all own this thing. So, even if they decide to keep things capped at 10.8 million, and, even if they sell it into the ground, we can just take all the data and just build a new chain from it, decide what our own circulation is, decide how that works, who gets airdrops. I mean, it's ours. Like we own this. So, that's the way that I look at it. And that's what keeps me driven and focused. And even when I'm, maybe a little bit discouraged or frustrated by some of the choices that are made, that are out of my control. That's what I kind of go back to and remember.
Mm. Yeah, no, that resonates really well, man. That's something that I think is, again, it's like I was one of the loonies that went and got the tat in the arm, and people would sit there going, you just put a social media logo on your, like, what? It's like, no, that's a symbol. That's a symbol. It doesn't belong to anyone. That's a symbol of liberation, of creativity, and evolution, for where we can go forwards. And that's something that I think brings us all back here again and again, right? And I think that's what gives me hope for the future of DeSo, is when you've got this kind of glue holding a community together, it doesn't rely on any independent individual, then we're talking about something powerful. And like you say, it can all collapse, but we can just rebuild, continuously rebuild. And as long as people keep coming back, that's you can build whatever you like. So now, fantastic. So in regards to, because I guess we've got a few different types of users, right? On BitCloud, we've got the creators that are creating art, content, all these different things. You've got investors who are then investing in that. You've got the developers who are building the infrastructure for that all to happen. Do you see, from your personal, just from where you stand now, do you see bitclout.com and different iterations of it? So whether it's Clout feed or Flick or any of these other different nodes and ways of accessing it, do you see that as sticking around as a kind of foundation, or do you see a reimagining, a redevelopment of it all coming?
Sorry, I'm very sorry. Could you repeat that last part? I'm very sorry about that.
No, absolutely. So with bitclout.com at the moment has been kind of like, a lot of people only know the platform, right? It's a brand new concept to try and understand DeSo now, and the fact that the blockchain doesn't mean BitClout. Do you feel, because a lot of people are investing their time and their energy into bitclout.com, into this Twitter-like platform. Do you see that as being the foundation and then growing from there? Or do you see there being a kind of a big break away from that and a reimagining of it, and this kind of just being a memory in that sense?
Yeah, I think my views on this probably differ than some, or maybe the popular view. This concept of nodes first, and that bitclout.com is just kind of a proof of concept or a prototype. I think there's a little bit of escapism in that, where it's like, we're going to put everything we have into this like reference client, and if it works, like, we win. And if it doesn't, well, it's up to the nodes, right? Like, we just gave you the tools. You guys are the ones that need to really make this happen. So that's one of the things that I think is a little bit frustrating about that. But I also think that there's no real precedent for building something like a social network and fracturing your user base amongst all these different websites, right? Like, we say nodes, and having intimate knowledge about DeSo and blockchain and BitClout, it means something to us. But to most people, it's just going to be an app, or it's just going to be a website. And, if you're building something on DeSo and it doesn't mention DeSo, it goes out of its way to hide DeSo, are you building something for DeSo? Or is it really contributing to the overall ecosystem? How does that really benefit any of the other nodes? To me, that just sounds like competition, right? So I'm dubious on this idea that we need all these nodes to pop up to fit all these niches, and I'm especially concerned with the idea that we just need 100 different Twitter clones with minor differences, because it just feels to me like we don't have a centralized place, a centralized focus, a centralized brand. And I would love for it to be that this node approach works, and it would be amazing for it to work, but it just seems like backwards to me, right? Like, we have to build the platform, the brand, the thing that people understand and recognize, the Ethereum, before you can build the things that are on top of it. And I believe this for a lot of reasons. And having been in the industry for, I've been building Android apps and working at startups, and I've worked for startups and helped build startups that had incredible ideas. ideas that I thought were going to really change things, and that just went nowhere, right? And I've worked on apps that were iterative ideas, that have millions of daily active users, and completely made it. And there is no one recipe, but the thing that interests me, and I think a lot of people, about building on something like BitCloud is that you don't have to create your own market, right? The idea of building on Facebook, building a game, Facebook games, is that you have billions of people on Facebook already. You don't have to drive them there, right? And actually, Mubs, is a partner at FounderPath, wrote a book about this, or partially about this, the idea of tapping into existing markets, rather than creating your own. So example I think he gives is, you already have this this entire ecosystem of Uber drivers and Lyft drivers, and these kind of gig drivers. Build an app or service that is focused at them. Build a service for them, because there's already a market there for you. Being a trailblazing is a terrible business model. It's not for the faint of heart. It requires a whole lot of money to burn. That's why they call it blazing, and it's really not like you're not going to get anywhere quick. And I think there's a little bit of an echo chamber on BitCloud and DSO, where people saw success early. They saw the effect of the bonding curve and saw their price go up and made a lot of money. And there's kind of this like false sense of we can make this thing blow up, with or without the things that actually got us here. And for me, I believe what really drew us here was the 15,000 account preload growth hack and the creator coin on bonding curves. And why do we have creator coin on bonding curves? Because it simulates a market, right? In a real market, you have demand and you have ebb and flow, you have buys and sells that affect the spot price. But in a market where you're getting 1 or 2 buys a day, if that, you're not going to see any actual movement. So what the bonding curve does is it creates this market dynamic without actually having to have both sides of the trades. This is, just simple brilliance, right? To bootstrap something with that idea is brilliant. And then the idea of preloading these 15,000 accounts, that's a no-brainer. When I was working on the usernames on Ethereum, I was going to do the same thing. I was going to scrape Twitter and scrape all, and get as many preloaded as I can to make sure that nobody would squat on them. Because the last thing that you want is somebody owning a username that they don't actually represent, and pretending to be somebody that they're not. And, to me, those are the things that really drew, everyone that I saw come into the platform early were talking about the gains that they were getting from trading creator coins. And anyone that I've talked to about BitCloud, the only time they listen to me is when I talk about how you can turn a little bit of money into a lot in a few minutes, and that is the thing that's unique. That is the thing that's different. Let's just be honest. There's nothing unique about a social network, right? There's nothing unique about tweeting. There's nothing unique about posting or blogging. There's nothing unique about inherently the medium. And, if we're going to compare ourselves to things like Snapchat or TikTok, which actually created new tools and in ways, new mediums, there's some disingenuous comparisons happening there, because we don't have that thing, right? And maybe somebody will figure out, how do I tap into the creator coin and the bonding curve and create this new thing that can exist anywhere else, that everyone can see the value of, right? And to me, I think trading creator coins on bitclout.com was that thing, but maybe it's not that thing for everyone. So to answer your question in a very long-winded way, I believe to get to that place, bitclout.com needs to be the shining example. And I go back a lot to the way that Google built Android. In the very beginning, Google released their first phone. It was kludgy, it was terrible, but it was a reference model, right? And they thought that they could kind of like continue with that, just put out like, simple phones, just kind of, this is how you should do it. And all of the other manufacturers would see that and then kind of like go from there. But that didn't really work that well for them, because all the other manufacturers were doing other things and fracturing their user base. And, some people didn't even realize they were running Android phones. And then, Verizon decided to call it Droid instead of Android. So people thought Droid was different than Android, right? So what they realized was actually we need to have a real flagship reference model. We need to have something that shows everything that is fully capable of Android, show what a company like Google can do with the infrastructure. And that is the Pixel line that was created. And that took it to a whole new level, right? So, I see the way that Google built an open source system, and at the same time as competing with the people that are adopting it. So, they're building phones, Samsung's building phones, they're competing with each other. But the way that Google did it was by building in the open, right? So when they wanted to add Google Assistant, instead of just adding Google Assistant, they added an entire Assistant API that anybody could build. So as soon as that was available, Samsung just put in their system, right? And Motorola put in their system, and whoever else, they just put in their system rather than the Google's. So that's how they moved the technology forward while being self-serving and actually, making money from investing in open source software. So I strongly believe that bitclout.com in the near future needs to be the steward for innovation with creator coins and the bonding curve. And I also strongly believe that it's unlikely that bitclout.com will be the thing that really ignites this, that makes this click for everyone. But you have to respect the order of operations, right? Like we have to build before we take that leap. And unless somebody just like wakes up and has a eureka moment, just building X for blockchain is not going to be enough. Twitter for blockchain, Instagram for blockchain, Discord for blockchain. It's not going to be enough, in my opinion. It's enough for the maxis. It's enough for the people with the vision, because we're looking years out, right? Like we see what the writing on the wall is. But if you want something that's going to like actually light a fire, that's actually going to draw people in, you tell them that Elon Musk's coin is worth more money than Bitcoin, and that you can turn $30 into $3,000 in 10 minutes on this crazy new platform where you trade on people's likeness. And that is viral, right? Like that's what brought people. So I just, I think we shouldn't forget what it is that really made this happen. Bitclout's not the first try at social on blockchain. We have other creator tokens. We have, so yeah.
Absolutely, man. No, I appreciate that. And you say long-winded, but I say in beautifully detailed, and I think you lay it out so nicely. Now, okay, so Paul, I'd love to have you on regularly whenever you want to come on, man. You have an open ticket here because we can just constantly dive deeper in. But we have a few questions here, and I'm going to hand you to Alex. So we're going to go a little bit over time. We do try to keep it to an hour, but sometimes we just got so much juice. And Paul, we'd love to make the most of this opportunity with you. So before I hand you over to Alex, so Alex, get yourself ready with your questions, my friend. We've got Falafel Dude has put a comment in the YouTube chat, and just before we ask his question, Homestead Tech's also in there commenting saying, "Greetings, Earthlings." So good to see we got some more people watching in live. Please do share this out, everyone, and help get this out, because it's education that is going to help people to understand what's going on here and be able to leverage this as much as possible and get as creative as we can. So Falafel Dude has asked, first of all, Paul, what a freaking world that we're living in these days, where some of the highest rollers and people that are change makers in the world are wearing the craziest clothing with the craziest names, and it's completely normal. So, Falafel Dude, what happens long-term when we pull monetary energy on a software network? Thank you for your thoughts. So what happens long-term when we pull monetary energy on a software network?
Wow. I'm not sure.
It's a bit of an esoteric question, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure that I can answer directly to that, but one of the things that I think is really interesting about proof of work on blockchain, people talk about the environmental impact, and of course that's real. Like, the amount of energy that we're using is enormous. And obviously there's the argument that the amount of energy that it's offsetting is way larger, right? But there's also the argument that it spurs innovation, right? Like it's in the interest of every miner to bring their electricity costs down, right? So people are doing things like reusing natural gas that was previously just unused, or building in the middle of the Arctic and tapping into natural cooling so that they don't have to spend 30% of their budget on fans. But more interestingly is that this is a temporary problem, right? Like energy is the ultimate commodity, right? And eventually the blockchain will just be run by the sun. And if you can harness more energy than the sun, then you'll be able to hack the blockchain. But good luck,
I think black hole's next after that.
Right. I mean, the way that we secure with proof of work right now is by energy expended, right? So you'd have to expend more energy than most countries in order to actually take over the Bitcoin network. And if you just kind of extrapolate that into the future, then we're talking about pure energy, right? Like that really is the base currency, right? Like the actual ability to turn real energy into currency. Bitcoin is just a medium for that. So
that's a really good point, Paul, that just quickly on that we really are starting to see money becoming the energy that it always was, right? The exchange of energy.
Yep.
And now we're seeing it more tangible than ever for what it really is.
Yep.
Wow. That's a good thought.
So I hope that kind of addresses that question in some way.
I think you did an incredible job at processing and answering. That was a pretty deep question. Excellent. Thank you, Fluffle Dude, for that thought-provoking one. And yeah, anyone who's watching, we do these regularly on Clout Forum. It's an opportunity. We love having live attendees. It always brings a good energy, as we say, which is where the clout comes from. And it's great to get this information out there. So please do join us live with your questions. We really appreciate them. And if you're watching the replay, make sure you're sharing it out there. Leave a comment. Let Paul, myself, and Alex and the crew know that you're watching. And if you've got any questions, I'm sure we're going to be checking them out and answering the best we can afterwards. But now I would love to hand you over to Alex, Paul. And Alex has got some juicy questions for you.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Paul, it was really a great speech from you about everything that is going on now on Bitcloud and DSO. And before before I will go to my typical questions, I would like to ask you one more about mass adoption of Bitcloud or DSO. So you've mentioned that the node approach to the mass adoption is quite a tricky thing, and we all hope that it will work out. But for now, it might look to someone that DSO is given their responsibilities on marketing different nodes, and DSO, which was the base for these nodes, to the nodes itself. So every site, every website should have some budget for marketing needs, and that they will increase the popularity and awareness of their own website. Gift Cloud, Natural Rich Cloud, Teaging Club, Love for Source, and so on and so forth. I hope that this foundation will maybe come up with some idea to create some sort of grants for these nodes to help them to have this budget, and thus provide the fuel to the fire, and it will help them. But the most important question for it is how do you want to proceed with the mass adoption? So we'll hear it from you that which things are not working in your opinion, or might not work in the end. But what would you do? What advice would you give to this foundation to do in order to help them to bring this mass adoption? So we had different talks, like Hunter Paulson has his own opinion, and maybe you have a different view on it.
Yeah, I mean, I would hesitate to say that I believe the core team should do any specific things. I'm not going to pretend to know how to make this successful. If I did, I probably would be running my own, right? But I can talk to the things that I believe are roadblocks, things that I think should be addressed if we want certain communities to maybe change their mind or take another look. And some of those things are the things that we've been talking about. So, addressing the initial clout that was bought. So we now have the spreadsheet that shows every clout that was bought and every Bitcoin transaction related to it. We don't have the addresses that those went into, right? So, it's like baby steps, right? And so we have the data. It's in a spreadsheet that really isn't, official in any capacity, except that it came from the core team. And it doesn't actually connect the dots because we can't see how it correlates to the addresses in the Genesis block. So, if we keep taking kind of these half steps towards fully open data, we're going to just continue to lose the open source decentralized maxis. Now, I don't necessarily know that we need all the maxis to adopt DSO for it to be successful, but I think you need their respect, at least, because the truth is that most of their concerns are founded in something that makes sense, right? There's a lot of FUD out there. There's a whole lot of misinformation, people just making up things. I saw someone tweet that bitclout.com mines on your computer, which is just preposterous, right? Like, we would know if this was the case. Like, you can't just get away with that kind of stuff. So there's a whole lot of that, which really muddies the water. But there are things, like the initial supply, like the cap at 10.8, like the trusted block producers, like the super admin privileges. I mean, let's just be realistic. Right now, the core team has super admin privileges that allow them to take over any account. Literally, they can swap identities and take over any account, which is just wild, right? Like, the idea of that to someone that is kind of blockchain native and kind of a maxi is just, forget it. It's a non-starter, right? And we get why. Like, they did this 15,000 account hack. There's really no other way for those accounts to claim those public keys, to claim those wallets without some third party giving it to them. So we understand why, we get it. But the truth is that it's a far reaching privilege and ability that the core team has, that as long as it's there, you're just never going to see adoption from the hardcore crowd. So, that's one thing that I think can be addressed, is just address the things that are deal breakers for blockchain natives. The second thing I think is, lean into the development that's happening around the platform. So, I think we're they're talking about putting fuel on the fire by supporting projects and devs. And, I'd like to see more of that. And, it doesn't necessarily mean giving money to any specific person or any specific company. That's, probably the least interesting way that you can do it. But, some of the ways, again, to go back to Google, for example, the way that they got people to come onto Android is they had a developer competition, and there were like 5 or 10 top prizes, and each one was $250,000, right? And that's a fair amount of money for anyone. And if you look, the people that won those, I mean, you have companies that were sold to McAfee. One of the winners is now the head of Waymo, which is the self-driving company that used to be part of Google. So if you look to see what that initiative of just having a contest, not only how many apps did it birth, how many big apps did it birth, but also how many people it empowered. It's incredible. And, it'd be very easy for them to do something similar, like have a developer competition, to throw fuel on the fire that way, I think is very healthy. So second thing would just be more support for third-party developers. And, I don't know necessarily what the best way to do that is. I think something like the competition is a way to get people excited, and it's a fun way and maybe seen as more fair than just kind of picking and choosing winners. And I know that's one of the concerns that they've had, is that, with all this concern around decentralization, if they start, buying coins from specific projects, then they're basically endorsing that project. So, one way to do that is to make it a fair battleground. And the last thing is just be honest about where we are with decentralization. Calling yourself decentralized social now is kind of doubling down when the blockchain isn't really decentralized. And I do believe we're working towards it. But, it's like just being a little bit more honest about where we are. And I think having a public face is going to help that a lot. Someone that can just answer plain questions and, that is responsible and that's going to be held accountable. I think that's going to help. So those are the things that I think should be addressed and that I would probably think would be standing in the way of mass adoption. I personally, just from what I've seen, believe that when you have kind of a new technology, something like a blockchain, or for example, in my case, Android, an open source mobile operating system, when Android launched, it was like iPhone ran the world and Windows Mobile, right? And the idea that this new operating system was just going to come in and take over was pretty far-fetched, even though it was Google behind it. But just the way that they supported it is what gave it a chance, in my opinion. So I don't have all the answers, but I would address those things first if I were able to.
Yeah, thank you so much for very transparent and honest opinion. And I think it's a great way for us to have this kind of discussions that will bring awareness for those who are not very good at technical side of BitCloud and DSO. So this is going to be my last questions about DSO and BitCloud, and then I'll turn my turn questions to about your personality. Speaking about mass adoption, one short question: do you think that the traditional, conventional means will work out for BitCloud, like social media ads, partnership with some service on Discord who has a great amount of subscribers, doing something like this, or just maybe becoming a sponsor of UEFA Champions League, something like this?
Yeah, it's tough. I'm not sure. I mean, I consider marketing and public relations to be the thing I'm weakest at. I'm very much an ideas guy and, someone that likes to build. But when it comes to getting it out there, that is where I completely fail. So I'm probably the worst person to be judging anyone's marketing plan. But my impression is that, you can't buy virality. And, there was an article a few months ago that was titled, "You Can't Buy Cool," which was kind of the same idea. It was a little bit flippant, but, just onboarding celebrities, having super rich people, show me an example of where that actually worked. Like we have so many examples of where that didn't work. A good example is that app that launched in the beginning of COVID that was
Paul, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I would like to shift the focus not on those things that we've seen, like inviting some celebrities, making cooperations with them and so on and so forth. But my question is more about what do you think if BitCloud or DSO will go to more aggressive social media ads, like in Google ads, like in Facebook and so on and so forth. So bringing awareness at least to the people. But the issue is BitCloud is quite a technical savvy. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I don't know that there's any precedent for running ads for a product like BitCloud. So, if we were talking about a new way to like sell gadgets that you no longer want, you can just put a whole lot of ad buy into that, and then people are going to go to that website and they're going to use it, right? And there's plenty of precedent of that kind of thing. If you're talking about an online marketplace, you can put a whole lot of ads into it. But what is the call to action for BitCloud, right? Like, so what is the ad? I don't know. I mean, I don't know what, text-based or visual or video ad that I would see that would encourage me or entice me to join something like Bitcloud. So maybe I'm the wrong market. I'm the wrong target market for something like that. I kind of go out of my way not to see ads for the most part. So yeah, I don't know that that'll be very effective, but it's possible it will. I mean, to me, the thing that's most effective is virality, is word of mouth, is people telling you have to get on this platform, you have to see what's happening here, you can't miss this opportunity. Those are the things that are so powerful, and really the only factor that I've seen time after time that results in success. So I don't necessarily think that running ads or having celebrities or any of these kind of like cheat sheets are going to be the answer. But again, I'm not an authority on this, so
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, just to wrap it up, from my point of view, the ads for Bitcloud could be some sort of similar as ads for banking or investors in blockchain. I mean, like Revolution or something like this, because it's very technical apps, and you need to go dive in it. And they have managed to do it, to attract a lot of users and to go dive deeper in understanding how it works and so on and so forth. So it might be an example to learn for this or Bitcloud. So now just relax and talk about some interesting questions about yourself. So you are living in New York, right?
Yep.
So what's your favorite place in it? What's your favorite, maybe a restaurant, maybe just a park or something like this, where you can relax and receive a huge amount of pleasure after a hard day?
Excuse me. Favorite place? I don't know. I mean, I've lived here my whole life. So, obviously when you've been somewhere your whole life, even if it's as incredible as New York City is, maybe it's not as interesting. I'm kind of a homebody, so my favorite place is probably home. But recently, actually, I kind of discovered a park in Brooklyn called Sunset Park. And it's kind of silly that I discovered it just recently because I lived near it for many years, but I just never went to it. And it is really beautiful. And I've just been taking my daughter there a lot. It has a really beautiful view of the city. It's up on this like big hill, and they have really nice playgrounds. And during the week, you have large populations of people that are exercising out on the fields to music. It's really cool. So that's kind of a recent favorite.
Yeah, this is the part of all of us who are living in some big cities and who has great cultural heritage, and we just don't have time to visit them because we are not tourists. And yeah, we don't know all the places here. So my next question is, what would you like? What would you choose? A New York steak or a chocolate cake for the dinner?
Sorry, repeat the last part. New York State or what?
Or chocolate cake?
It was chocolate or what?
Chocolate cake or New York steak?
Chocolate cake or New York steak? Wow, probably chocolate cake. I'm a sucker for chocolate. It's my weakness.
What animal would you consider as a totem animal for you?
Oh wow, I have no idea. Totem animal.
Let me rephrase. What animal do you like most? Maybe crypto kitties.
Crypto kitties. That's funny. What animal do I like most? I don't know. I mean, that's such an interesting question that I feel like I haven't thought about since I'm a child. I don't know. I think obviously, like, the primates are very interesting. That's a really lame question because they're highly intelligent. So I can, go to like the dolphins and the smarter apes. Um, Obviously, I mean, I love dogs, obviously. So I guess we can say my totem animal's a dog. Is that good enough?
Yeah, cool. What was the last thing that excited you?
Wow. Last thing that excited me. I mean, the truth is that I really love to code. I love to build. It's why it's the thing that I do. I didn't go to school for it or anything. I just kind of dropped out of school and decided to teach myself to code at some point. And so yeah, I get excited by coding, by creating. So every day I get to write code and make things that people use, and that gets me really excited. So I'm constantly excited about Bitcloud because I'm getting to build new things, unique experiences, and most recently I've been really excited about getting these NFT transfers and burns out.
Mm-hmm. So who would you take with you to conquer another country from Bitcloud? If you are a president of the country and you will need some territory, who would you take with you? Will it be Nick, William, Maps, Mark, or someone else from Bitcloud?
These are funny questions. I would probably take Tejan because he, like Mark, is maybe hopelessly optimistic. And I think sometimes I verge on pessimistic. And, there's a little balance that we can find in between the two. So Tejan and I often have conversations off chain where I'm complaining about things and he's like, it's all good. They're good people. So yeah, probably he would keep me level-headed.
Edina with diamond hands, or Edina or Dina with Joe Biden?
Definitely dinner with diamond hands. No offense to Joe Biden. I just don't know how much we'd have to talk about. Not very into politics.
So thank you so much. I have the last one. Would you like to earn $20 million by your own, or be gifted 100 million USD by luck or someone? What would you choose?
I would definitely take the 100 million because it's more money, and then I would earn a lot more with that money.
Yeah, I think this is the right choice, because someone could choose, to earn by themselves because they can feel it like an achievement to be proud of themselves. But to tell the truth,
listen, if you can turn 1 million into 100 million or 10 million into a billion, I think that feels pretty good too.
Thank you so much. So Mark, please take the floor. And I know that there is a giveaway that Paul has prepared for the community, so please.
Absolutely. All right, thanks, Alex. So, Paul, you got me giggling there. Absolutely. So thank you everyone for watching. Paul, thank you so much for being here. It's been really, it's been really, really juicy to be able to learn, to be able to see some different perspectives and to really get to see underneath the surface. And I couldn't think of a better time, to be having this conversation. We were supposed to have it a little bit earlier. Life happens and we postponed, and the gods aligned up well, my friend. It's like I couldn't have thought a better time to have you on. So thank you.
Agreed. Oh, thanks. It's been a pleasure.
All right, great. So we got an NFT giveaway. So Paul, do you want me to bring it up?
Sure. Yeah.
Should we? All right, let's bring it up. So, and I was thinking, Paul, this is just really very appropriate for helping to, so basically everyone, we're getting everyone to do a bit of an NFT giveaway or something just to help promote NFTs on Bitcloud and kind of, get it out there and have a bit of fun with it. And in this case, it's actually very functional, because I believe this replay of the conversation we've just had, Paul, is going to be incredibly helpful for so many people out there. So this competition is going to help give some energy for getting it out there. So tell us about this Clout Punk, Paul. This is one we chose.
So yeah, 701 is one of the Clout Punk Gs that I own. And basically I'm going to be giving it away. So all you have to do is just reclout my last post. The last post that I just put up that had links to this very talk, and everyone that reclouts will have a entry into getting this NFT. How long do you think we should actually make that run for?
That's a good question. I tell you what, why don't we put it to the crew that's in the chat right now watching live? If you guys let us know, how long should we run this? Should we run it till Sunday? Should we give it a week? How long do you want to run it? And Paul, what I was thinking, while we're in flowing conversation, should we get them to repost the actual live? Because when we finish this, Alex will be doing a little write-up, and then he'll be sharing the YouTube replay and doing that as a post on Clout. Should we do that? And then we'll share that out from Clout Forum out around. And then that way they can comment underneath and then share.
Perfect.
Sounds good. Alex, you good with that?
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
absolutely.
And we've got after the town hall tomorrow from Mubs.
Okay, so close it
Will
after
says
town hall.
Sunday. So what do you guys reckon? We got after town hall, we got Sunday. Should we do Sunday evening? We got another competition ending Sunday evening too.
Yeah,
Will says what Mub said is better, after the town hall tomorrow. All right, let's do it after. What do you guys reckon?
Sounds good to me.
All right, fantastic. So to clarify, for everyone watching, really would love your support in getting this out there, not because you get the chance to win something that is going to continue to gain value, because we're joking around saying that this is like the old, the beginning of VR, right? It's like the old 3D glasses we used to get in the magazines that were so amazing. So it's a bit of an awesome little flashback. So to win this, number 701, Clout Punk, as you can see, Paul Burke down here is the current owner, and last price paid was half a DSO. And you know, it's going to be amazing, Paul, one day, that could be one hell of a value when we try and match it to US dollars.
Yeah.
So this is the prize. Share it out there. All you need to do is, after this, give it a bit of time. Alex is going to put up the replay on Clout Forum. So at Clout Forum is where you'll find it. And if you can just comment underneath and then share that post out. So comment what you liked about it, or if you might have questions for Paul or us or anything like that. It's just good to get the activity on the post. It helps give it some life. And we'd love to hear from you guys, to hear who's actually listening and what you guys want to hear more of. And then please do just recloud it. And then just by reclouding, you're going to go into the entry to win this, which we will draw after Town Hall tomorrow. And let's get this bit of fire under this one. Awesome.
Sounds great.
Sweet. All right, Paul. So thank you again. Thank you, everyone that's joined us. We've got Will Laurent. Will Laurent, looking forward to having you on the conversation soon, my friend. We've got Nick from Pulse. We've got Mubs, Dom, Paul Burke, of course, the mighty Alex Roken behind Clout Forum, and myself, Mark Bentley. It has been an absolute pleasure, everyone. Paul, thanks again.
Pleasure is all mine. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much,
We'll
guys.
talk soon.